When war began in 1914, Europe did not feel like it was stepping into darkness. It felt certain. In cities across the continent, people gathered in open squares. They stood along railway platforms and city streets. They watched as young men marched past in pressed uniforms. There was noise. There was music. There was pride. Soldiers waved from train windows as they pulled away. Families cheered. Some cried. Many smiled. The atmosphere did not feel like the beginning of a tragedy. It felt like a moment of purpose. Across Europe, the same belief repeated itself. This war would be short. A matter of weeks, perhaps months. A decisive struggle that would settle old tensions once and for all. They spoke confidently of being home by Christmas. No one packed for years. No one packed for hunger. No one packed for fear. Because no one alive had experienced what modern war was about to become. The leaders believed this as well. Most generals had been educated in a world where wars were fought with movement and momentum. They believed courage still mattered more than machinery. That discipline could overcome anything. Their war plans were detailed, complex, and confident. They assumed soldiers could advance across open ground, that speed would overwhelm the enemy, that victory would come quickly. But the world had changed. Weapons had evolved faster than ideas. Machine guns could fire hundreds of rounds a minute. Artillery could destroy entire landscapes. From miles away, railways allowed millions of men to be moved at once. War was no longer about individuals. It was about systems, but no one fully understood that yet. By late summer of 1914, Europe was already in motion. Germany moved through Belgium, believing speed would prevent a long war. France rushed its armies forward, determined to defend its borders. Russia mobilized millions of men across vast distances. Britain entered the war, sending its professional army to the continent. Each nation believed it was acting defensively. Each believed the other side would believe the same. Each believed disaster could still be avoided. They were wrong. The first major battles shattered illusions. Soldiers advanced as they had been trained. They marched forward in formation. They expected resistance. They did not expect annihilation. Machine guns tore through advancing lines. Artillery fell without warning. Entire units disappeared in minutes. Fields turned into graveyards before commanders could even understand what had happened. Messages from the front were confused and incomplete. Officers struggled to make sense of reports. That seemed impossible to believe. And yet the fighting continued, because stopping meant admitting that everything they believed was wrong. As weeks passed, victories failed to appear. Attacks were launched. They failed. Counterattacks followed. They failed as well. Neither side could break through. So the soldiers did what humans have always done under fire. They dug. At first, trenches were shallow, temporary shelters meant to provide cover. But as the stalemate deepened, the trenches became permanent. They grew deeper, longer, more complex. Soon, hundreds of miles of trenches cut across the European landscape, from the cold waters of the North Sea to the mountains near Switzerland. Europe disappeared underground. Life in the trenches was not dramatic. It was relentless. Mud-filled boots and never dry. Rain flooded sleeping areas. Cold seeped into bones. Rats moved freely, feeding on scraps and on the bodies of the dead. Lice spread disease. The smell of decay never left. Men slept sitting up when they slept at all. Artillery thundered day and night, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days. Sometimes it never stopped. The noise became part of existence. Some men adapted, others broke. Between the trenches lay no man's land, a stretch of earth destroyed beyond recognition. Craters overlapped craters, barbed Wire twisted across the ground. Bodies lay where they had fallen. Crossing no man's land meant near certain death. Yet soldiers were ordered to try. Whistles blew. Men climbed out of trenches and moved forward, not running, walking. They carried heavy equipment. They moved slowly. Machine guns opened fire. Most did not return. Survivors carried the memory forever. As months passed, new weapons appeared. Artillery became more powerful, machine guns more efficient, and then came poison gas. At first, soldiers thought it was smoke, then came coughing, then panic. Gas burned lungs from the inside, blinded eyes, left survivors permanently scarred. Gas masks became essential. Fear became constant. War was no longer about victory. It was about survival. By 1915, the illusion was gone. No one spoke of Christmas anymore. No one spoke of quick victories. The war had settled into something far darker. The front lines barely moved, yet the numbers of the dead continued to rise. Every week brought new casualty lists. Every month brought new graves. Millions of men were trapped in a conflict that no longer had a clear purpose, only momentum. And momentum was deadly. Soldiers began to understand that survival had little to do with bravery. It depended on luck. Luck decided whether a shell landed 10 meters away or directly on a trench. Luck decided whether a gas cloud drifted left or right. Luck decided whether a man lived long enough to become hardened or died before understanding what the war truly was. Letters continued to travel home. Some soldiers tried to protect their families by softening the truth. They wrote about comradeship, about endurance, about hope. Others could not hide the exhaustion. They wrote about mud that never dried, about the sound of artillery that never stopped, about nights spent away, waiting, and many wrote nothing at all. Silence became a language of its own, because there were no words strong enough to explain what modern war felt like. For the first time in history, entire generations were being shaped by the same trauma. Young men who had left home full of confidence returned silent, distant, changed. Some returned with missing limbs. Some returned with damaged lungs. Some returned with eyes that no longer looked at the world the same way. And many never returned at all. Behind the front lines, the war transformed daily life. Factories became extensions of the battlefield. They worked day and night, producing weapons, ammunition, and supplies. Women replaced men in jobs they had never been allowed to hold before. They operated machines. They assembled shells. They carried the weight of nations on their shoulders. Children grew up faster. Food shortages became common. Bread was rationed. Meat became rare. Hunger quietly joined the war effort. Civilians learned that war did not respect distance. Even cities far from the front felt its presence. Air raids became possible for the first time. Bombs fell where no battlefield existed. The idea that war belonged only to soldiers collapsed. No one was safe. Everyone was involved. Governments struggled to keep morale alive. They printed posters filled with optimism. They spoke of honor and sacrifice. They promised victory again and again, but belief weakened. People began to ask questions that had once been unthinkable. Why is this still happening? What are we gaining? How many must die before this ends? These questions frightened leaders more than enemy armies. Psychological wounds began to surface. Doctors struggled to understand men who could no longer function. Some shook uncontrollably. Some could not speak. Some stared endlessly into nothing. They called it shell shock. At first, it was treated as weakness. Later, it became impossible to ignore. The war was breaking minds as efficiently as it broke bodies. Battlefield had become a machine that demanded constant feeding. Men were sent forward not because victory was certain, but because stopping would mean admitting failure. Entire strategies became exercises in endurance. Who could suffer longer? Who could lose more men? Who could hold on just a little more? Victory was no longer about winning. It was about outlasting. As the war dragged on, something else changed: faith. Faith in leadership, faith in progress, faith in the idea that civilization was moving forward. People began to realize that modern technology had not made humanity wiser. It had only made destruction more efficient. The same factories that produced wealth now produce death. The same trains that once connected cities now delivered soldiers to the front. Progress had revealed a darker side. By late 1915, despair quietly replaced enthusiasm. Soldiers stopped believing speeches. Civilians stopped believing promises. The war had become a fact of life, a constant background presence, something that no one remembered choosing. Yet no one could escape. World War I was no longer a clash of armies. It was a transformation of society itself. Values shifted. Dreams shrank. Survival became the primary goal. The idea of glory faded, replaced by exhaustion. And still, the war did not end. Instead, it spread. New fronts opened. New nations became involved. The conflict grew larger, heavier, and more complex. What had begun as a European war was becoming a global one. By the end of this phase of the war, the world had learned a painful truth. Modern war could not be controlled once unleashed. It could not be guided by honor. It could not be limited by intention. It consumed everything in its path: men, resources, hope. This was the moment humanity understood too late. The war was not temporary. It was not contained. And it was not rational. It was something new, something industrial, something unstoppable. In the next episode, the war expands beyond Europe. Empires begin to fracture under pressure. New powers rise, and the conflict grows into a force that reshapes the entire world. A war that began with one assassination has now become something far greater, something that history would never forget.